Good morning, children. Today we're going to have a Bible story about Job. Now, Job is in the Old Testament, so he didn't know Jesus in the New Testament. He actually didn't even have a Bible. So what he did hear about was Noah and how Noah obeyed God, and he was in the ark, and he was like, I want to obey God too. I want to be safe. And he knew that there was a story about his life. He knew that God had his story all written for him, and he has our stories written for us too. All right? But he did not know Jesus, okay? Because Jesus is in the New Testament. Now, while he was on the earth, he had 10 children, and he loved them very much, and they had a party every day. But he could not choose for them. He could only choose for himself. So what he did was every morning he would have a sacrifice because he would say, God, please, oh, please forgive them of their sins, because this was before Jesus. And so he loved them a lot, and he obeyed God a lot. Well, the devil didn't like that, but God did. And one day, as God was sitting on his throne and talking to his angels, the devil came in to tell God about some stuff too. And when God saw him, he said, what are you doing, and what have you been doing? And the devil said, I've been walking up and down throughout the earth. And before he could tell God anything bad about anyone, because that's his favorite, God said, did you see my servant Job, how he is good and he does good? And the devil went, The only reason he does good is because you give him everything and you protect him with fences and I can't get in. That's why. Well, what the devil was saying was that God was buying Job, and the only reason Job liked God was because of what God was giving him. And God said, I'll move the fences around his things, but don't touch Job. So the devil goes, yes, woo-ha, I get to go get his stuff. So as soon as God moved the fences away, the devil went in there and he began to destroy Job's things. He whispered in people's ears, and they went and they took all of his animals away. And when they went and told Job about that, Job said, what? They said, yes, they took your camels and your sheep and all of them and your donkeys, and they destroyed in fire from heaven, and it was horrible. And he didn't understand it. He said, God, why? Why? I've done nothing but good. And he didn't know. He was so confused. Then while he was already sad about that, somebody came to him and said, Job, remember how your kids are all having a party? Well, guess what? While they were having their party, a wind fell on the roof and it crushed them all, and they're all dead. Job, we're sorry. And Job said, what? Now the devil was laughing and waiting for Job to say mean things about God now, but Job didn't. Job said, you know what? After he shaved his head and after he put dirt all over his clothes and ripped them, he said, you know what? When I was a little baby, I came into this world with nothing. And when I leave and die, I can't take anything with me. So God, you gave it to me. So if you want to take it, you can. And he began to give God glory and praise. And the devil said, what is happening? Why is he doing that? Oh my goodness, he thinks God's doing it to him and he's still being good. Well, God was in heaven again, and his angels were talking to him, and the devil came up again, and the devil said, God, and he said, what have you been doing? And he said, up and down the earth. And then God said, well, did you notice my servant Job? You talked me into moving the fences away, and you know what? He still does good, even though you took all his things away. And the devil said, yeah, but that's because you won't let me touch his skin. You know, if I touch his skin, he will say bad things about you. Well, God said, all right, you can touch his skin, but you better not kill him. Well, the devil was so glad. He went out and he touched Job's skin from head to toes, and he gave him bubbles all over, pain bubbles that went all over his body called boils. And if you barely touched them, it made you want to cry. And Job said, God, why? Why are you doing these things? things to me. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to do what you said. But Job still didn't say anything mean about God. Well, the devil just was so frustrated. He was like, why wasn't he saying anything mean about God? So he whispered in his wife's ear. She went out thinking it was her own idea. And she whispered to Job and she said, Job, are you still saying good things about God? Are you still being good? Why don't you say bad things about God and die? And kids, this is what the devil wants. He wants us to think God does mean things to us. And then he wants us to say mean things to God and then die. Because that's how mean the devil is. Now, Job told his wife, God gives us good things. He gave us the animals. He gave us our children. If he wants to give us bad things, then that's his choice. Now, again, Job didn't know Jesus. There's a New Testament story of Jesus. There was a girl who died, and Jesus went in there, and he made her alive again. And Jesus told his friends, the devil comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But I came to give you life and full life. But Job didn't know that yet. Well, Job's friends came to see him. And they wanted to make him feel better. But when they saw Job, they were like, oh my goodness, look at him. Look at his body. Oh my. And they didn't know what to say to him. So they were so sad they didn't say anything for a whole week. Well, finally, Job opened up his mouth and he said, I hate my birthday. I wish I was never born. Oh my goodness, I'm so sad. I did nothing wrong. I didn't do anything wrong, and God is doing this to me, and I don't know why. Well, his friends were worried. They said, if God is doing this to Job, and Job is being good, he might do it to us too. Oh no, oh no. And then the devil whispered in their ears, Job is really bad. He's just tricking you. Well, they said, Job, you're bad. That's why all this is happening to you. You're just pretending to be good. We know you're really bad. That's why God is doing this to you. Now again, remember, they didn't know who God was. They didn't know Jesus yet. And so they were all being mean. Now the whole time, God was listening. And when Elihu, the friend, said, you know what, Job, this is all these guys were actually saying it was his fault. But you know what? Job said, I just wish I could talk to God. I wish I could just talk to him and tell him why. And Elihu said, you can't talk to God or he would swallow you up. Now this made God's heart very sad because God sent Jesus so that he could talk to us, so that he could have a relationship with us, so he could be our friend. So God wanted to talk to them, but God's invisible. So he dressed up. He got inside of a big whirlwind. And his voice came out of that whirlwind and their hair was blowing. And God told Job, Job, I have some questions I want to ask you. And Job was like, oh my goodness, God's talking to me. And God began to talk to him about foundation and cornerstone and lots of things. And Job realized he couldn't answer any of those questions. All his friends realized, we can't answer any of these questions. We thought we knew everything, but we didn't know very much at all. And then Job said, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was talking about. And God said, I know. You were saying I was doing mean things to you, and you were good, and you were better than me. And Job said, I know, I'm sorry, God. And he said, I forgive you. And then he looked at his friends and said, you guys were saying mean things about me. That wasn't true. I do not blast people. And he said, you ask Job, and Job will ask me to forgive you, and I will, because Job, I will listen to him. And after that, they said, we're sorry, Job. We didn't know. We were sorry. And he said, I forgive you. And after that, God touched Job's body. He made him well. And he gave him back all the things the devil stole away from him. He gave him back double. And when Job had more children, they had children, they had children, they had children, they had children. And he had so many grandkids. And he lived a long and happy life. Well, kids, This story is to remind you that even though Job didn't have the Bible, he had only a few pieces of the Bible. Okay? The Old Testament had more pieces, but was still missing pieces. And now we have the whole Bible. We have the New Testament. And so now we have all of it and we know Jesus. So these guys were guessing on who God was. But we know Jesus because Jesus came on the earth and God said, listen to Jesus. Jesus is exactly who I am. So the cornerstone that God was asking Job about, what that is that is a stone on the top that holds everything together. So if you pull out that cornerstone, this whole bridge would just fall down. So God said, put Jesus as the cornerstone. If you put anybody else there, it'll all fall down. Put Jesus there and it'll all stay together. So when you have any questions about Jesus, go find out what Jesus did and see what Jesus is like that's how you know what God is like by Jesus. Okay? So when you want to know about God, look at what Jesus did. Did Jesus heal people? Did Jesus do that? Was Jesus kind? Right? Whatever Jesus did, that's who God is. And God said we are to be like Jesus. When the disciples saw the children coming to Jesus, they said, get back, Jesus is too busy for you. And Jesus said, bring those little children to me. That's how God is, kids. He loves you so very much. Okay, now I'm going to read 5 questions to you, and I know you were listeners. 1, did Job have a Bible? Could he read about Jesus? 2, did the devil accuse God and Job by saying Job only did good because God gave him stuff? The devil do that. He's so mean. 3, when God decided to move the fences away from Job just for a little while, what did that devil do? Do you remember what he did? 4, even though Job didn't know why all this bad stuff was happening to him, and he even thought God did it, did he turn away from God? Yeah. 5, who made Job well and gave him back everything the devil stole from him and even gave him back more? Do you remember? All right, friends, thank you for listening. I love you very much. Remember, God loves you too. Okay? Bye-bye.